iti shabdyate.
Bhagavan iti shabdyate.
Vadanti tat tattva vidas.
Vadanti tat tattva vidas.
Tattvam yat jnanamadvayam.
Tattvam yat jnanamadvayam.
Brahmeti paramatmeti.
Brahmeti paramatmeti.
Bhagwan iti shabdate.
Bhagavan iti shabdyate.
Vadanti tat tattva vidas.
Vadanti tat tattva vidas.
Tattvam yajnanamadvayam.
Tattvam yajnanamadvayam.
Brahmeti paramatmeti.
Bhagavanti paramatmeti.
Bhagavan iti shabdyate.
Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Vadanti, they say, tat, that, tattva vidaha, the learned souls, tattvam, the absolute truth, yat, which, jnanam, knowledge, advayam, non-dual, Brahma iti, known as Brahman, Paramatma iti, known as Paramatma, Bhagavan iti, known as Bhagavan, Shabdyate, it so sounded. Translation: learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan. Purport: the absolute truth is both subject and object. There is no qualitative difference there. Therefore, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan are qualitatively one and the same. The same substance is realized as impersonal Brahman by the students of the Upanishads, as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis, and as Bhagavan by the devotees. In other words, Bhagavan or the personality of Godhead is the last word of the absolute truth. Paramatma is the partial representation of the personality of Godhead, and impersonal Brahman is the glowing effulgence of the personality of Godhead, as the sun rays are to the sun god. Less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization, but those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above three features of the one absolute truth are different perspective views seen from different angles of vision. As it is explained in the first shloka of the Bhagavatam, the supreme truth is self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from illusion of relativity. In the relative world, the knower is different from the known, but in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same thing. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or the superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter or inferior energy. Therefore, there is duality of inferior and superior energy. Whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are of the same superior energy. There are three kinds of energies of the supreme energetic. There is no difference between the energy and the energetic, but there's a difference of quality of energies. The absolute realm and the living entities are of the same superior energy, but the material world is inferior energy. The living being in contact with the inferior energy is illusion, thinking he belongs to the inferior energy. Therefore, there is the sense of relativity in the material world. In the absolute, there is no such sense of difference, because the knower and the known, in the absolute, there is no such sense of difference between the knower and the known, and therefore everything, therefore, is absolute. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaura Vani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Vadanti tattva vidas Tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. As we know, Srimad Bhagavatam discusses science of God. So now begins the science of God. A discussion is given, first of all, not about who's God, but here it's referred to as that substance. Non-dual substance, Advaya Gyan. Jnanam Advayam. So Advayam, the Jnanam Advayam. Advaya means non-dual in English. In Sanskrit, Advayam. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes that the absolute truth is both subject and object. We discuss about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and some people don't have experience or reject that there is an object, person, concrete substance. This is God. It's just a ambiguous topic, nebulous. Nebulous means some not fully known thing, idea, concept. So, but the absolute is subject and object. We discuss, but there's an object, there's a personality, there is an object. And that's what's discussed here. Being discussed so far didn't come to who's God, but it is a non-dual substance. Non-dual in the sense, when we speak about Him, it's not two different things. Our speech about Him and the entity is the same. Prabhupada uses the word absolute. The Supreme is absolute. When we speak about someone else, we speak about him, his body are different and his name are different. But the Supreme, Advaya, there is no two different things. We speak about the Supreme, that speech is God, that personality is God, everything in relation to God is God. Therefore, He is known as absolute. The translation here, it says non-dual, but commonly Srila Prabhupada uses the word absolute. Absolute, because anything in contact with God is God. His personality, His painting, depiction, deity, His teachings, everything is the same as God. So this non-dual substance discussion is explaining how there are three stages of realization of God. If we divide up all the religions and their concepts of who is God, we can come to these three features of how they see God. Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So Brahman, that is given in Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, I think it's the last verse. Then Krishna says that Brahmano hi pratishtaham, I'm the shelter of Brahman. Anyway, the topic of Brahman is given, and it's described as the effulgence coming out of the Supreme Lord. But they don't see it, the follows. So what are the different groups of people who worship the Paramatma, Brahman and Bhagavan? It says here that the Brahman, Upanishads, when they describe Brahman. Realization of God based on Upanishads is impersonalistic. And when we say Brahmin means a person who is a Brahmin, should be Brahma Janati. He knows Brahman. Very often his realization is of the Brahman, not Bhagavan, because Vaishnavas are rare. Actually, the Vaishnava Brahmin is very high because of his realization. But mostly they will be reading Vedanta Sutra and Upanishads. And although the intrinsic actually message of Upanishad is God as a person, that can be found in many places. But generally Upanishads describe Brahman. So those who are reading the Upanishads, they realize Brahman. Because Upanishads very clearly and carefully delineate the nature of that substance, Brahman, what it is not, clearly, so that we get idea, this is Brahman. That is they realize. So it says here, the same substance is realized in the impersonal Brahman by students of Upanishads, and then as localized Paramatma by the Hiranyagarbhas or the yogis. So yogis, they will realize the partial expansion of Krishna in the heart, known as Paramatma. Krishna, for devotees, we see Krishna inside. For them, yogis, they will see Shridakshay Vishnu. Actually, within that Vishnu forms, all opulences are there. All the Vishnu Tattvas, all opulences are there. But only Krishna exhibits them. So the Paramatma, Krishna can also manifest there. He can be there. If we worship Krishna and see the Paramatma as Krishna, so that's what Krishna will communicate with us, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 10. And for devotees of Lord Ram will, because the Vishnu Tattva is there, complete. But he will not exhibit, because depending on our realization. Just like now, the Vishnu Tattva, the Paramatma is there present, but not communicating. So Hiranyagarbhas see him as Paramatma. And devotees see him as Bhagavan. This is explaining the three forms of, not three forms, you can say three types of realization of God. The system practiced by Jnanis, Yogis and Bhaktas. So Jnana Yoga, Jnana and the Yogi, Ashtanga Yoga and Bhakti. These are three ways that one can come to transcendence. But as we understand, even when they want to realize God in that form, they need a tinge of Bhakti. Bhakti has to be there. This is a technical understanding. There has to be a tinge of Bhakti. Without Bhakti, they cannot realize. Whereas without the other forms of Gyan and Dhyan and Yoga, we can realize God. So as we know, that is, Srila Prabhupada repeats this, but he explains it many times, that to how to understand realizations of God, you can understand it like this. He gives the example once of the sunlight, sunshine. Another example he gives of the forest, another of the mountain. To understand these three levels of realizations of God. So let's take one of them, let's say forest. So people who are coming from far away, they see a forest, three people. And one of them approached the forest from far away. He said, I know what a forest is. He's seen a green cluster in the distance. So he turns back, that's the forest. But the other two keep going. And when they come near, then they realize the forest is not just a green cluster. If you come near, you see individual trees, plants, leaves, branches. Then the second person says, I know what a forest is. He goes. That's his realization. Yes, it's true, but not fully true. The third one enters into the forest. He looks around and sees birds and trees, and properly then he says, I know what a forest is. I've seen the forest. So all three know, and they're not wrong, but their levels of realization are wrong, fully. To fully understand the forest, we have to go till there. So now, all of them are endeavoring to know God, but here it says, less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their own respective realization. So there's a progression that as you're realizing God, you realize Brahman, then you realize Paramatma, then Bhagavan. And we understand it like this, that actually everyone is on a path at different levels. So we don't disturb them, but if they're open to change, we preach to them. And this is covering all systems of God realization on this planet and this universe. That there are levels. It's not that they are different paths, they're not. They are levels. And one who stops at that path, he says, he's known as a Brahmavadi or a yogi. He stopped. But if he goes on, he'll realize God fully, in full. So these are three understandings, three features of the Absolute Truth, which are seen from different angles of vision. When one realizes the Brahman feature, he becomes Sat. He comes out of the cycle of birth and death, and he understands the eternality aspect of himself and God. When one realizes Paramatma, he realizes the Sat and Chit That means he becomes eternal. He comes out of the cycle of birth and death, and also he gets knowledge of the Atma, Paramatma in a deeper way than the Brahmavadi. But one who realizes Bhagwan, he realizes all three, Sat, Chit and Anand, happiness. It's because of the lack of that third one, happiness, that the other two are not happy. They will not stop searching. They may either come to bhakti or they'll continue searching. Because of that, Jeev has to be happy. Sat and Chit are not enough. So many times it's written about happiness in Shastra, to be happy, and the Ramantyananta Yogino Satyanande Chidatmani, that the yogis derive unlimited bliss from Iti Rama Padenasa Param Brahma Vidiyate. Supreme is called Ram because the yogis derive unlimited bliss from chanting his name. So always bliss and happiness is discussed. So one may question, why? Why are you discussing happiness? We want to speak about God. Because the jiva is seeking happiness in this world. And that is motivating his every action. What is he doing? Where is he going? Which country is he living? Which job is he doing? Which neighborhood? What is his hobbies? It's motivating everything. We are seeking God. But that happiness they get is not full, so they're not happy. So then, therefore, Shastra says, then how to be happy, how to attain God. Then we'll get the full happiness. So 3 levels of realization are with only the devotees. Devotees of God, they realize God in his full features, Bhagavan. In this last sentence, it says, in the first paragraph, bring my glasses. Less intelligent students of either of the above schools sometimes argue in favor of their respective realization. But those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth know well that the above 3 features of the above are different perspectives. That's what we just said. Okay, so now there's more details given about Supreme. Here it says in the second paragraph, Supreme Truth is described in Bhagavatam as self-sufficient, cognizant, and free from illusion of relativity. Description is given of Bhagavan, not a substance, energy which we cannot know, we cannot understand. It's just an idea. No, descriptions are given. Self-sufficient, cognizant, free from illusion of relativity. What is that? First verse. It's saying here, self-sufficient. What is that? In the shloka. In the shloka it's there. First verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Swarat. Yes? Self-sufficient. That means he's operating on his own, doesn't depend on anything. And it says here cognizant. What is that? Abhigya. Abhigya. Knowing everything. Gya, knowledge. Abhigya, everything. He knows. So, and free from illusion of relativity. Supreme is free from illusion of relativity. Satyam kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Then it says, Dhamna svena sada nirastam kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. He is residing in his abode which is free from illusion. There's another part there. It says, Tena brahmitya adhika vai muyante suraya tejo varimridam yatha vinivaya yathati sargam rasha. That he is free from illusion. That it's also mentioned there. So, Supreme, it says here, is free from illusion of relativity. Relativity. That means, when we are speaking of this world is a relative world. Nothing is fixed. If you say, I am enjoyer, tomorrow I'm also a servant. Relative here in this world, it means that the knower is different from the known. If I speak about someone, the speech and the name is different from the person. But in the absolute truth, both the knower and the known are one and the same thing. Now, but if I speak about Krishna, that speech is Krishna. The name Krishna is Krishna. Abhinatva nama namino. So, it's one and the same thing. In the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is the inert matter. I'm speaking about a person. I speak about him, but everyone is thinking about the body and his face, material body. It is a relative world. It's not fully absolute. It's relative. So Supreme is not on that relative platform. When we speak about him, everything about him encompasses him. Therefore, there's duality of inferior and superior energies, matter and spirit. Whereas in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are the same thing. Known and Krishna and his name. Even one who reaches the spiritual level, he is also takes on that quality. For example, a pure devotee, we can access his mercy. How? By chanting his name, or more specifically, his pranam mantra. If we chant, we can get access to that personality. He's not limited now because he's far from us. Or I knew him in another time, he existed 50 years ago. That's not an obstacle for a pure devotee. We can access, and therefore they're put into samadhi. And so everyone can derive spiritual benefit from them. So there's no difference between energy and energetic, but there's a difference of quality of energies. This material world is also Krishna. He says in here, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadaveta murtina matthani sarvabhutani na chitteshu chamavastita. I am this, he says that everything is me, but I am not here. So this material world is also Krishna, but it's different in the sense because this energy is inferior. In the absolute world, Krishna and his abode are non-different. But here in the relative world, this energy there's a difference. It's not a superior energy. There is a difference between the energies, the quality of the energies, matter and spirit. But there's no difference between energy and energetic in the absolute world. So here the Supreme is being referred to as non-dual. Non-dual means when we speak about him, everything about him encompasses him. Non-dual substance, Advaya Gyan, the Supreme. So, but the living being himself is dual. But if he connects to the non-dual substance, the Advaya Gyan, then he himself takes on that quality gradually. Because when we worship the Supreme, or anyone we worship or take shelter of, we get their qualities. This principle is there in spiritual life. That nectar of instruction instructs us to mentally respect someone who chants the name of Krishna and to bow down to one who has taken Diksha. Diksha is yat pranitibhischa bhajantam isham. But one who is free from all propensity of criticizing, who sees everything uttama adhikar. Highest level of devotee, one should take shelter of him, from him. So there are different levels, even within devotees we see. So the Supreme Personality, when one gradually worships him and approaches him, he begins to take on that quality also, so that he is not limited. He doesn't become limited. He is able to exist even in this material world, but in an absolute platform. So the Jeev has to come on that level. Now, being in this material world, under material laws, it's very distressing because it's not compatible with our quality. Our quality is Satchidananda. But now we are not having, and Vigraha, we have a spiritual form. We are not on that level. The reason is because we disconnected from the Supreme. We cannot exist separate from him and expect to come out of this suffering condition. So Srimad Bhagavatam is in detail giving knowledge about that Supreme, what is his nature, and it's the duty of the Jiva Bhuta, to connect to this Supreme. How? First we have to understand his nature. What is his nature? In detail we have to understand. Because we'll mistake what is not Supreme to be Supreme. For example, one thing is we can mistake. One thing is we can mistake even the God, Bhagavan, we can mistake a lower level of realization. This is the highest. That is one mistake. Another mistake is we can totally worship something not connected to the Supreme as Supreme. So even in Srimad Bhagavatam, it started off saying Krishna is Supreme. Yes. Now understand properly Krishna, because some people claim, okay, Krishna is Supreme, but above him is the Brahman, and Krishna came in that, it came as Krishna. But no, Krishna is Supreme. Then details are given. Yes, he has Brahman. Yes, there is Paramatma, but Krishna is above this. The personal form is greatest. I'd gone last Bhagavad Gita appearance day. So some people from another sanstha, I won't say the name, but they're Kumaris on pursuing Brahman realization. Yeah, so they called me and to speak on Gita and Bhagavan. But knowing what we'll speak, first made me sit and listen to them, and everyone listened to them clearly. God is not the body. There's a body, then there's no God. If there's a body, then he's not God. God is formless. They said everything. I listened. Okay, now my turn. Okay, I'll get up again. Then I spoke whatever we had to speak and said everything clearly. Supreme is sentient, cognizant. Here, that one. Janmadhyasya yatha, the one who created, maintained and destroyed. Janmadhyasya yatha and vayad itara cha ateshvi abhignya swarat, fully cognizant, fully knowing everything. Swarat, independent. Bhagavat, powerful Bhagavat philosophy. And from behind the in charge, but he has a body. So, knowing that now we're revealing all the truth, people will get disturbed. So, but he has a body. So I said, but it's a spiritual body. It's a spiritual form. So we will mistake what is not God to be God. And we had to understand clearly about the science of the Absolute. So now here we understand that the non-dual substance, because we didn't come to God, understand there's a substance, which is a personality or substance. Okay, then later on, yeah, he's a person. But this substance is not under material laws and is not different from, it's not two things, name, book about him, his deity. No, it's all Krishna. That is the explanation. And then realization of him. Yes, there are levels of realization. There are levels. It's not paths. Levels. So we have to come to the highest path. Highest part of realizing God is understanding God. Supreme Personality is a person. How to understand the person? Prabhupada said many times. We try to understand ourselves and understand we are a microcosm of him. You can understand God. He has likes, dislikes. He seeks happiness always. Except, of course, we are in Maya. So don't mistake God in that way. He is always free from Maya. And he is always happy on his own. Doesn't depend on anything to be happy like us. Doesn't depend on anything for anything. Swabhaviki jnana bala kriya. He wills something, it will happen. Swabhaviki, automatically. Jnana bala kriya. He wants to do something, it will happen. Jnana, bala, the energy to do it, bala, kriya, and the action will take place on their own, automatically. So the proper understanding of God has to come as a person who is independent, swarat, cognizant, all-knowing. He knows everything. And energy cannot know everything. Create. An energy cannot create anything. Swarat. And then abhignya swarat, tene brahma hridyada kavya. Dhamna asveda, no, before that. Tejovari mirdam yatavinimyo yatrati sargo amrisha. He puts others into illusion, as it's mentioned in the verse, as one sees water on land, the mirage, or land in water. That I could not understand. Or that is when the sailors are going, they see illusion of island, but it's not. So he puts others into illusion, but he is not in illusion. Dhamne Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam. His dham is Nirastakuham, is not in a place where there is illusion. It's fully, actual knowledge is there, complete knowledge. So by understanding each of these points, then we'll get a proper understanding of God, which is important. We have to understand God in truth, tattvata. Because I recall reading in a poem written by Srila Prabhupada's Guru, which is, the English translation is, 1,000 refutations of mundane mellows, deeply philosophical. I won't pretend. Yeah, that one, yeah. I won't try to say it because I could not recall the name. But it's a deeply philosophical, very accurate, particular, very specific point of that poem is to separate a misunderstanding of spirit and matter. Example, people feed the poor and these things, they think it's spiritual. It's not. Giving charity to temple, okay. Not to temple, it's not spiritual. Helping people, help them, but help them how? Helping come to Krishna, that is help. Helping, I don't have money, you give him money, then he'll go and buy alcohol, that's not help. So, 100,000 refutations of mundane mellows. Within there he writes, one has to clearly understand philosophy of God, otherwise we'll not get liberation. We will not. We'll do bhakti, we'll understand, we'll think we're advancing, but we cannot go to Goloka till we fully understand who's Krishna. Even if we have one misunderstanding or one wrong understanding, a misunderstanding or lack of knowledge of certain things, we cannot go back to Godhead. Now, one who is sincere, this knowledge can manifest in the heart. If we are practicing without duplicity, yeah? But if we are not so sincere, which by the way, that means most of us, we'll karma mishra bhakti, we practice bhakti for some benefit, then we require to read. We require to approach the Bhagavad descriptions of God to clearly understand Him. Otherwise we cannot go, or we'll go somewhere else. So that clear path has to be given. And no substitute, but we have to come to the Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavatam. There's actually in Padma Puran narration of Bhakti Devi's two children, Gyan and Vairagya, who were not getting energy. And it's a long, some narrations there, that Narad Muni came and spoke that they'll only get energy by Bhagavad. That means in Bhakti, Gyan, the actual knowledge and detachment can only come by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no way now, especially in Kali Yuga, to get Bhakti separate from Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Any question? Yeah.
Hiranyagarbha, what is exactly?
Hiranyagarbha's description of the Paramatma form. The Paramatma, Hiranya means golden, I don't know exactly, but that is the Paramatma form.
They are like yogis, no?
Yeah, they're yogis, they meditate, this is in 2nd canto Bhagavatam, also in 6th chapter Bhagavad Gita. They'll just sit and eightfold processes, Ashtanga Yoga, realize the Paramatma within. Because the description of Paramatma is given, in their mind they'll meditate on that form, beginning with the feet, then the thighs, then the waist, the chest, the face, then the limbs, and they'll make out what they're seeing. They'll see the form in the mind till they realize the Supreme. And as they progress in the 8 levels, Ashtanga, they'll get purified gradually. That's a way of purification. It's very long.
Hiranya means gold, no?
Yes.
Why gold is associated with that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think he may be giving out a golden effulgence. Yeah.
I have one question. I am unable to understand why these Paramatma realized souls, they are called, they are told to have the Chit realization, the knowledge realization. But in fact, if we see, they have no knowledge of personality of God. And even this like the Brahm realized souls, they have knowledge of Brahm. So why do we classify one as having attained knowledge, chit aspect of absolute truth?
For the yogis.
For the yogis, but not for the Brahmavadis. Because
Brahmavadi. See, Brahmavadis, they just understand that I am a substance which is not of this matter. I am spirit. That's all.
So,
1 second, I'll finish this point. I am spirit. Aham Brahma, Brahm, I am spiritual. I am not matter. This body is matter. This table is matter. I am not the matter. They realize this point, that I am not part of the material creation. That's their realization. And they also realize that Brahman, which is all pervading behind this matter, there is a spiritual energy, it's all pervading. And that aspect is, I'm also that substance. So I am the Brahman, and this Brahman is everywhere, and it's me, and I'll go back into that Brahman. Spiritual energy come out of this matter because it's causing suffering. That's their realization. Then Paramatma is little further. Is that I'm not only that I'm not this matter, but I am a soul particle, and there's also another super soul particle. This is deeper realization. This is knowledge. Chit is knowledge. Chit also means spiritual. Chinmay, Chitmaya. But in this context, knowledge comes that I am a soul, and there is a Paramatma, super soul, and I'm subservient and worshipping and deriving knowledge from this super soul. That is higher than the Brahman realization. They got that knowledge. Brahman don't have knowledge of Paramatma. They don't have clear knowledge of soul. Just that I'm not matter. I'm spirit. There's a difference.
Just because the classification that they have realized Paramatma is
yes.
They've been classified.
They classify that I'm Atma. There's a Paramatma. Now I'm meditating on Paramatma. He can give me knowledge. He's supreme. He's maintaining everything. He's pervading everything. Shirodakshara Vishnu is everywhere. So that knowledge comes.
That knowledge realization is also not perfect.
It's not perfect because that's not the full realization of God. Full realization is more that look at the personality. He has a Leela. He has his pastimes. He has avatars. So much more.
Brahma means what it would be like. If we think of God, even God's that picture or that deity's resemblance will come to us. But if we think of Brahma, right, or Brahma, so we will not get any picture in front. Even if we think of this table, we will see the table, but or we will remember the table. But if we think of Brahma, right, or those who says Aham Brahmasmi, so even if they think of that they know the Brahman or Brahma, right, so what it would be, how they can understand that, as there is nothing that states that it's
no, it's about substance. Just like if I have here solid and liquid. I understand the solid is different from liquid. Then in the liquid there may be solids, but I understand there's a liquid substance, it's different from the solid. So their realization is, what I'm seeing is matter, but I realize there's a spiritual energy. Actually they also come to a level of realization. They become bright, they detach from matter. They also realize. They realize Brahman actually. Brahman is there and they realize it.
So it's just a state of self-engagement, right? Engaging ourselves in...
no, self-knowledge, self-realization.
To ourselves and not being distracted here and there, the Brahman.
No, the word is realization, self-realization. They realize themselves as being separate from matter. Mm-hmm. I am a spirit. I am not spirit. I am spirit. I am Brahm. I am a spiritual substance. And behind this nature and matter, there is a spiritual substance pervading everything. That's a verse in Gita. Brahmanoi pratishtaham, then the second line. Forgot it. It's 1427, which says the nature of Brahman, all pervading, all-pervading. It's happy. Happy because there is no guna. Not that there is happiness like Bhagavan, but the guna is not acting there. Okay, so what they realize is that all-pervading spiritual energy, and that I am also that energy, and I am not matter. That's what they realize. When they realize that, they're not anymore under Maya. And so that is happiness. That is Brahma Bhuta platform in Gita it says.
So Brahman means like I don't know much, but it is nothing. Like everything has their roles and responsibilities, right? Whatever is got created, even a devotee, even a soul has a responsibility towards realizing the God and serving Him. But Brahman, they don't consider anything like that. They are not in such state. They will just understand that I am Brahma and I don't have anything.
There is no variegatedness.
Any other.
That's all. That's all. I am not matter. I am spirit. That's all. Aham Brahmasmi. I am a spirit, substance, not matter.
So there is no next state.
That's it. They just freeze.
Yeah.
And go to Brahman and just freeze. But they'll not stay because they'll seek happiness. Yeah, that's Brahman. And there we went once to an ashram, we met people. I was with a senior devotee. They were Brahmavadi, he told me. So we looked, we saw their books, we saw that they were detached from matter, they were so bright, they had a level of happiness and peace.
It would be the most pitiful state if it's just idle and nothing like...
Therefore, it's mentioned in Shastra, in some Acharya said, Kaivalya Narakayate. That state of merging into Brahman and becoming one, and I'm not matter, is hellish for a devotee. What, I want to serve God, let me serve. Why I have to freeze here? I want to serve God, I want to worship Him. I want to distribute books. I want to cook for God. I want to go to yatra with devotees, holy dhams. Not freeze here, it is hellish. Out of 5 kinds of liberation, 1 is not accepted. Samipya, liberation becoming near God, okay. Sarupya, getting a form like God, okay. Sarupya, Samipya. Sarashti, coming on this, what is Sarashti? Same quality as God. Sarashti. Anyway, Salokya, same planet. Huh?
Same planet.
Same planet. Sayujya, no. Merge into God, no. I want to remain so I can serve Him. I don't want to merge into Him. Yeah. You're right, it's hellish for devotee. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.